Welcome back, everyone, to Through the Leadership Lens, a podcast presented by the Women in Propane Council, where bold voices, big ideas, and brilliant guests in the propane industry take the center stage. I am Freddie Riddler, and we're diving deep into leadership that inspires, empowers, and transforms. And now, joining me in the studio is my incredible host, the one and only Jessica Balderston.
Thanks, Freddie. Today we're joined by Tom Krupa, Senior Marketing Representative at NGL Supply Terminals and a 39-year veteran of the propane industry. Tom has led leadership roles in operations, sales, and logistics across multi-state marketers and wholesale companies, and he's deeply involved in the industry associations. Beyond the business, Tom stays active in his community through Project Homes and his church. He's passionate about helping others understand the operational side of propane and brings a practical, experienced perspective to every conversation. We're excited to hear his insights on the industry, mentorship, and the lessons he's learned along the way. Welcome, Tom.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Wow, that was awful nice. Wow. Appreciate it.
So, Tom, we are going to kick off with a question that we like to start with everyone. What does leadership mean to you, and how has it changed over the years?
I think leadership, whenever I think of leadership, I think of, somebody that's leading the charge and but more importantly, having people behind you that want to follow your lead. I think that's critical whenever you're in charge of something, that you have the support of the people. Maybe you're humble. You also have great moral character and so forth, so that people will want to follow you and they trust you and so forth. So I think that's, when you talk about leadership, those are the things that come to mind for me.
Perfect. And Tom, we're going to be just throwing a bunch of questions your way, some really quirky and fun and some serious. So we changed up our podcast just a little bit. So before I ask my follow-up question to your reply on what leadership means to you, describe yourself in one word, Tom.
I would say passionate.
Perfect. Love it. That's a great answer. Now, go ahead.
Whenever I take on a role, I have pretty high expectations, not only for myself, but for others too, when I take on a role. And so that passion can be good and it can be bad at times too. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about your leadership style, because you talked about taking charge, leading the team, right? When I was reading a little bit of your bio, you put in there, you mentioned there's in your eyes, there's two types of leaders. There's ones that have the soft skills, right? Those coaching skills, those mentor skills, the ones that are going to say, you're doing a great job, keep up the great work. But I feel like you're more of the operational side. Like, I know you're a really great person. I'm going to help you, coach you through this, but let me help you with the problem you're actually experiencing. Can you talk a little bit about in your bio how you said I lead with more operational leadership skills versus the soft side of that?
I found that sometimes my own approach to things, from a leadership perspective, can be kind of tough, harsh. So when I'm trying to help somebody, and I don't know that I'm the greatest example of the soft skill type leadership. However, in my 39 years of experience, there isn't any part of a business, or the propane business, that I haven't had some experience in. And so with that, I've had the opportunity to probably have 5 or 6 mentees, and they've been in all different areas of the propane business, whether it be customer service, whether it be operations, whether it be in auto gas, whether it be in, whatever the area that the person was looking to get more information on. I've been able to, I think, help them understand that area a little bit better and be a resource for them.
So talking about those mentorships a little bit, what do you, having kind of that more hard approach to things, have you ever had like a mentee mentor where it just isn't maybe clashing, or it's not clicking the way that you wanted to? And kind of how did you kind of overcome that?
I think one of the challenges with the mentor-mentee relationship is that the whole program, the employee still has their 40-hour-a-week job that they have to do, or maybe it's a 50-hour-a-week job, right? So a lot of the things that you're asking them to do so that they can better understand the businesses over and above what they have to do on their regular daily schedule. And in some cases, it may have to be done after hours, right, at home or what have you. And oh, by the way, I'm a single parent and I've got 3 kids and I just don't have the time. And so the challenge that I have is, we would meet on a monthly basis, and maybe there's a task that needs to be done. And we come up to our next month visit and, oh, I haven't had the time to do it. And that can be a frustrating part on my end. And that's where I sometimes where I'm kind of a task. I set high expectations for myself. And so I also have high expectations for others. And sometimes, it can be frustrating a little bit when things don't necessarily get done. But I also have to have an appreciation that they have a life as well. And that, maybe they can't devote the time that they thought they were going to be able to devote to some of the things that we're doing.
Yeah, just kind of going back and reevaluating. Maybe it's not a right now thing, but maybe once your life settles in a little bit, we can touch base on it again.
And it's incredible. And a quick shout out to the Knowledge Exchange. We have to do it, right? Womeninpropane.org. So everybody that's watching or listening, if you go to womeninpropane.org, there is a program called Knowledge Exchange. Check it out. It's a great place to get mentorship, or if you are a leader or a mentor in the industry and you want some mentees, it's a great place to find those as well. So, Tom, let's stay on the mentorship a little bit longer here. Um, so, with so many mentees, you have to have, I'm sure, a lot of great and fun stories. But maybe you can share with the audience or listeners or viewers right now on one of those leadership type moments where you help somebody with an aha moment, or hey, Tom, thank you for your help. This really worked out. It helped me personally, maybe with my growth, company growth. Maybe they got a promotion. You don't have to give names. I know it's all confidential stuff, but could you share a story that you may have helped one of your mentees?
I guess I would go to maybe the one that was looking to gain some information about how do I sell auto gas specifically in the school bus area, right? And how do I approach that? And I was fortunate enough in the position that I'm in now that I've got customers that have been kind of successful in doing that, right? And a lot of them, and then as well as my relationships with people at MPGA. So I was able to kind of be a resource in this case. I was able to kind of be a resource for this gentleman to be able to say, okay, here's somebody that has gone through what you're looking to do. And oh, by the way, here's somebody at MPGA or PERC that can help you get to where you want to be. So it was opening up doors for this person to be able to gain knowledge, and then, kind of going along with him on his journey to be able to, meet with a superintendent of a school or meet with a school district to be able to provide a proposal, and then, kind of have some good results from the effort that he was putting into. And again, when you can help somebody, I get more out of it than I do in actual, than they may. I just feel better about, hey, you know what, I was able to help you in some way, and it just makes you feel good.
Sometimes it's all about the people and kind of building those connections and
Yep.
intermingling everybody throughout there to kind of introduce people together is always good.
Yep.
Okay, Tom, you ready for a curveball question?
Go ahead.
We know you like golf. So who would win in a golf game? Past Tom or current Tom?
Who would win in a golf game? Who'd be more upset if they lost? It would certainly be past Tom than present Tom. I'm not as competitive and as driven as maybe I was when I was younger. That doesn't mean that wiser Tom, maybe a little wiser Tom, might not win now versus frustrated Tom in the younger years.
Many golf clubs thrown in the past.
I try not to do that, but yeah, exactly.
Tom, we're going to switch gears just a little bit. I want to talk about your local community involvement and the efforts that you've made, along with the industry too. So you've been deeply involved in both the community and the industry boards. How has your leadership style adapted between your grassroots in a local community and kind of a high industry role? Are they one and the same, or do you find things differ between community leadership and industry leadership?
I think it all depends on what you're leading, And give you an example. If you're leading an association that has a profit and loss, and you've got numbers you got to meet and so on and so forth, versus leading like what I do at Project Homes, where we've got a group of guys, 16 to 20 people that I have as resources, and we do projects during the month to help out the lower income, right? People who can't afford to do these themselves. And a lot of times it's widows who can't, need ramps, need railings installed off their decks, and need their decks redone, and so forth, so on and so forth. So that's a whole different type of leading. That's just communicating and keeping people engaged versus trying to lead an association where you've got a lot of different opinions, and you're trying to bring collaboration. You're trying to be as down the middle as you can and trying to please everybody, and a lot of times you can't please all people. So there's a big difference between leading something that, the result, you still are results oriented because you want to get these projects done, but who says that the results you want to get in the association are really the results that everybody wants to get in the association, right? So you got that kind of.
Yeah, I have a quick follow-up question to that. You mentioned you can't please all people. What do you do in cases like that? Because I'm such an empath, I have a really hard time being that people pleaser. How do you approach that and say, like, nope, that's not the direction we're going to go. We're going to go with something different, and kind of keeping that balance with everybody being happy across multiple platforms?
Exactly. I think you got to kind of make a list of pros and cons whenever you're deciding on a decision. You hear from this side, you hear from that side, you kind of make pros and cons, but at the end of the day, pros and cons for the decision, but at the end of the day, somebody's got to make that decision. And some people are going to agree with you, and some people aren't going to agree with you. But you just have to kind of make that decision that you feel most comfortable with and that you can defend, and that you feel, because again, you're ultimately responsible for any of the effects or that are going to come from the decision that you make.
And sometimes those decisions can be kind of risky, and you don't know the outcome of it at that time, but if you just have that gut feeling, I'm guessing, Tom, where you're like, I'm just going to continue making this decision because I just know deep down it's right, and I'm sure it's worked out for you in the past, right, making those risky decisions.
Some have and some haven't, right? I think we all make the right decisions and we all make the incorrect decisions sometimes, but we do the best we can do with the information that we have at the time that we can make the decision. And there are things that can change, and you know, unforeseen things can happen as well.
So, since we're kind of out down that path already, but I'm going to throw a curveball question at you real quick. What's your favorite ice cream flavor and why?
I'm a chocolate guy, so
Simple, love it.
chocolate with more chocolate with more chocolate. Then you can throw some peanut butter in there. So chocolate, peanut butter, fudge. That's
Yes.
me.
And then top a little more chocolate just for fun.
Yeah, exactly.
So, well, let's talk about risk a little bit, because with leadership, it always comes down to making those risky decisions. Would you mind sharing, maybe, again, not in depth or detail, but maybe sharing a risky decision that you made personally in the NPGA or in the community, and the outcome of it, something that turned out to be in the favor of adding value to either the community or the NPGA?
Okay, and this was an unpopular decision, but it was one that I felt like I felt good about. Um, so I was president of our my golf club in the community that I lived in, and we were struggling financially as a golf club. But I understood that the viability, keeping the golf course open, would be to the benefit of everybody that owns a piece of property in there, right? So if a golf course goes down and we start seeing trees, it's going to affect your property values. And so I tried to get the community to be supportive of the golf club. But in that, I wanted to make sure that the golf club, was giving something back to those people for their money that they were giving us. And that was in the form of, free food at the restaurant. So you get a $75 credit at the restaurant. You can have full utilization of our driving range. And oh, by the way, you get 4 free rounds of golf that you can donate to somebody. You don't have to use them yourself if you're not a golfer. And so I'm trying to be fair. I'm trying to go, okay. And I was really surprised at the number of people that really fought it, the homeowners, right? And I knew from the golf side, they're like, yeah, the golf course has got to maintain itself and it's got to be on its own, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I understand that. But we're not. And, we need to do something to continue. And, oh, by the way, I want to give you back. I mean, I just need you to support the restaurant. One thing is you can come up here and support the restaurant. We were probably 20 minutes away from a lot of restaurants and where everything is. So why wouldn't you, living in the neighborhood, come up here and support the restaurant? It wasn't private. So, boy, did I get a lot of pushback. It actually went to I did it through the HOA, and the HOA, some people took the HOA to court, and well, it was a mess. But, at the end of the day, I still felt like it was the right thing that needed to do. And, some people, again, there was a number of people in the neighborhood that supported it, and a lot of people, and some people that didn't. And then everybody else in the middle was just like, whatever happens, happens. But that 10% on this side that truly supported you and the 10% on the other side that truly fought you, they're the ones that got all of the attention. And the 80% in the middle that said, you know what, I get it. You don't hear from them. They just paid tell me what you need and I'll pay and we'll go on. So yeah, that was a tough one. And we ended up moving. We ended up moving out of the community about 2 years.
Oh no.
That was fine. We were downsizing. It was time to downsize. Kids were all grown and so forth. But yeah, I mean, it's
Tom was shaking the tree and then he left after he got his
Yeah.
wife. But a really quick follow-up with that, Tom. You
Sure.
seem like the leader just from talking to you for the last, 18 minutes or so, that you're always bringing both sides into every discussion. And I really get inspired by that. All of the conversations you said, okay, here, we're going to make a decision. Here's a pros, here's a cons. Sometimes leaders only focus on one side or the other. And I like that all of your stories, you're always bringing in both sides. So the picture is always painted. It's never like too heavy on either side. So I just wanted to just mention that because it's fun. I'm hoping the viewers and the listeners can hear that in your conversations as well.
Tom talking makes me want to have a pros and cons list on everything that I do going forward. It's awesome. Okay, Tom, new question. If
Sure.
propane was not your career, what would you be doing right now
Wow.
after 39 years?
I'd probably be in some type of management. I mean, I just always have been kind of leaning towards that. Don't ask me what industry I would be in, but I probably would be in some type of management. Um, Probably more so than sales. I'm in sales now, but I appreciate my background in management now that I'm in sales. Yeah, I probably would be. I've always just kind of, when it came to sports or whatever, right? I was a pitcher with baseball. I was a quarterback with football. I was a point guard in basketball. I always tended to gravitate towards those positions or whatever where you have the ball in your hand, right? And you are kind of in control. Some people might call me a control freak, but where you're kind of in control. Not that I needed to be the scorer, but I got more satisfaction out of making a good pass to somebody who could score the basket than I did in actually scoring a basket.
Yeah, that's
So
amazing. That trait has followed you throughout the years then too.
kind of. And it
Yeah.
started as just a really small, I just kind of gravitated towards that. It's not that I had anything intentional. It just kind of did.
Yeah. So that's a perfect segue to the next question because you said control freak. We did not say it.
I know. Yep.
But
Yep.
you've joked about having control issues. So how do you balance that natural tendency to like empower and lead others and make decisions, especially in like team or board settings where you have to work with a group of people?
That has been the most difficult thing for me to do because a lot of times, in some cases I'll say, you know what, I'll just do it. Right. Instead of trying to delegate things and trying to explain what you want done, I'll just handle it myself. When you get into these collaborative things and you've got to take everybody's opinion into consideration and so forth, that has been one of the more, probably the weakest part of my leadership has been really in being in that position to really be collaborative. Um, because in so many positions that I've been in, people bring me a problem and I have to solve it. They're looking for me to give them the answer, right? So I solve it, boop, move on to the next thing, move on to the next thing. And then, of course, you bring that home and your wife comes to you and she doesn't really want you to solve her problem. She just wants you to hear me. I'm not asking you to solve my problem. I just want you. And so that's probably been the biggest challenge for me when I get involved in organizations and so forth.
Yeah. And, I love it. We're going to talk a little bit of organizations in just a second, but I want to ask you another fun question. We have a whole list of them over here, and it's always fun. It's hard to know what question to ask until you're talking to the person, and they just kind of highlight right for you. So, Tom, you talked about old Tom, new Tom golfing. I'm gonna touch on that a little bit. If you could go back in time and talk to your 16-year-old self, what would you say?
Don't sweat the small stuff, right? And then the other thing is you only get out what you're willing to put into, right? So if you don't put forth the effort, you can't expect the results to come. Um, but really concentrate on the big things and don't worry about the smaller things. Don't let those eat you up. I I've read more books as I get older because now kids are gone. I got more time and so on and so forth. I wish I had the wisdom that I have. Not that I have a lot of wisdom, but I wish I had the thought process that I have now back 25 years ago when I was, managing or leading a group of managers and so on and so forth. I wish I had the wisdom back then that I might have today. I would handle things probably much differently.
I could tell just don't sweat the small stuff too. Being the quarterback, being the point guard, you can't sweat the small stuff. You get off sides, hey, let's regroup, let's play, let's throw out another call, let's get back to line of scrimmage, and let's succeed with this. Let's win this game. The game is the big picture. All the stuff that's happening during the game, don't sweat what's happening. It's funny. It's just all comes together when you have these conversations with guests. But organizations, I'm going to highlight some of them in your bio because I think they're very well. I want to mention them because you did put 39 years into the propane industry. So when you're talking about these organizations, this is on Tom's rap sheet. He's got the board of directors on the NPGA. He was the chair of the producers and wholesales committee. He's involved in multiple state associations along the East Coast. Past president of the Virginia Propane Gas Association and is currently on the board. Past chair of supply and logistics of PGAIN and is part of the Women Propane Mentorship Program. That's a lot of stuff. So a lot of viewers, a lot of listeners, they like to hear about how not to get stretched so thin. Because Tom, you're a great leader. That's why you're on this podcast. Obviously, people want you to be the presidents and the chairs of these different organizations and committees because you bring so much knowledge to the table. What advice would you give to someone not to get stretched too thin when they want to be part of all this? How did you do it? What's the secret sauce of how you made it through all of that and you're still smiling on this podcast 39 years later?
Yeah. You said something a little bit earlier, and I just want to reiterate it. You walk in and you ask, how can I help? And I think that the listeners really need to hear that. And it's not just the industry involvement on how you could help, but even walking into a meeting at your own company and having that mindset of how can I help in a meeting is something that really stuck with me with what you said. I even have it underlined on my paper here. So I think that is amazing and a great perspective to anybody listening on here is how can they help no matter what it is?
One of the things that I used to do one of the positions that I had was a regional manager. And so I had a number of managers that would report to me and I'd have to go visit their operations and so forth. And one of the things that I made a point to do every time I came in is not walk into the manager's office, but go and see each of the CSRs and try to get there early in the morning to see the drivers and the technicians and so forth and talk to them first before he even really said hi to the manager or go into the manager's office and do what we need to do in terms of the business and so forth. And I always felt like that gave me a good barometer of kind of what's happening at that facility and so forth. So yeah, I've always been I try to be more of a people person than just somebody that goes in and says,
Yeah, that's fantastic. Tom, talking about kind of the leadership skills and what you look for, what's the most underrated job skill that no one talks about?
Have you ever heard of ask? Attitude, skills, knowledge.
Okay,
I
yeah.
haven't. No.
Okay, so I always tried to go on that ask principle, right? And they're in order for a reason. I've always said, the propane business is not that I say difficult. We complex it more than it needs to be. It's really a distribution business, taking product from here to here to here. Um, and so the most important thing that I always look for was somebody's attitude. Yeah, you need to have the skills, right? But I can teach you the propane business. But if you don't have the attitude and the skill sets to be able to lead people and so forth, no matter how much time I spend trying to teach you, it's not gonna work. So I've always kind of gone on the ask principle. So I think attitude sometimes can be the thing that's forgotten most when it comes to employees and so forth.
I made a note of that. I'm gonna start using the ask
Yeah, I
program.
like that too.
I have to be
Yeah.
careful how you say it though. They gotta say ask.
Right.
Gotta really get the key at the end or the K. When you were going down that path, I'm like, what did he just say? I love it, Tom. My
Yes.
last question for this podcast, the last one I have for this episode. But before I get to it, just a fun, quirky question for you, Tom. What do you keep in the trunk of your car?
Surprise, surprise, my golf clubs. The golf clubs are there, and then I try to do a little bit of my part when I go grocery shopping. I've got the big bags instead of using the plastic bags that Walmart gives you. I bring my own bags in, so I try to do my part that way. But yeah, my golf clubs are always in the trunk of my car.
We've heard a lot of crazy answers for that one. I really like to see what people say. So my last question, Tom, is I wrote something down the way you greeted people in your office before you went to work. You greeted everybody. Leadership style has changed, but a lot of it came from COVID. Now it's 5 years ago, but it's crazy to still think 5 years ago how there was more in person. We weren't doing this podcast over Zencaster, right? It was all in person stuff, and then COVID came, and then the world kind of shut down for a little bit, and now it's kind of almost back to normal and a lot more hybrid. How has leadership changed? How have you changed? How have you adapted to this new leadership change where most of your conversations, I'm guessing now, might be virtual, maybe not. Maybe you are still 100% with the office. Maybe you can just go down that path for the listeners and viewers.
I'm totally remote in my and I right now in sales I have nobody reporting to me. I report to one person. So from a leadership perspective, I don't really have to lead. I only have to lead myself kind of thing.
That can be tough though.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you lose something when you're totally remote. You lose that togetherness that you have with a group of employees, kind of thing. Um, I've always been one that has been better with people than by myself. So I think something gets lost there. Um, from a leadership perspective, I think everybody wants to be led. If you just leave I think if you just leave us on our own, I think we can tend to flounder out there. So everybody wants to understand the direction they're going. What is their role in achieving that? And how do I know that I'm on that road to achieving whatever we're looking to achieve? And I think you need that. You need somebody to kind of help with that. So I think as we've become more independent, so forth, I think that the leadership side of it has kind of waned a little bit. Um, again, I'm not in a leadership role. I'm in a leadership role in some ways, but certainly as a salesman, as a salesperson in an area, I report to one person. Don't have anybody reporting to me. But my customers are the people that I have to support.
Yeah, sometimes those customers give you that more in person too that you were kind of missing from your team, being able to talk to customers like that too, and they become your team instead. Yes. Yeah. Tom, let's switch gears just a little bit. This is going to be my last question as well. What advice would you give someone that's new in the propane industry who wants to grow in a leadership role, but they don't necessarily see themselves like as that traditional leader?
I don't know that leaders, I'm not saying the leaders are born, but I think leaders, it's not something that you just turn a switch on and say, you know what, I want to be a leader now. Some people have those traits and some people don't have those traits. And if you, hopefully you're with an organization, this person's with an organization that is maybe seeing that he's willing to take responsibility for things. He's willing to provide suggestions for things. He's willing to be part of a team, blah, blah, blah. And they see that. And then they say, you know what, I think you've got some real opportunity in this organization, and we'd like to be able to provide you with the support. So I would say, do what you can control, and that is you, and provide, be a team player, try to provide input in a positive way instead of being in a negative way. Like, we're not doing this and we're not doing that, you know. Try to be positive, try to be a team player, and be willing to take some responsibility for your own area of your business. And I think people will recognize that. And then, there's opportunity. I think that this industry has been great to me for 39 years. I think when I go to these MPGA meetings and I go to these state association meetings, you look around the room, there's a lot more people my age than there are, I'm going to say, you two's ages. So that one, to me, I think that the industry has a great future. And with that, I think that there's plenty of opportunity for people in that 30 to 40 year old range to really be doing some dynamic things in this industry. And I think you've already seen that with the leadership roles that a lot of ladies have taken over the last 10 to 15 years and so forth. I think that we are a very welcoming industry. Um, I talk to people that are part of a fuel oil industry as well as the propane industry, and they're like, they're two totally different industries. When I come into a propane meeting, everybody gets along, everybody welcomes you in, and so forth. You go to a heating oil industry meeting, and you're all cutthroat competitors, right? And it's just a different vibe that we have in our industry, and I think it's a great industry. It's been great for me and my family, and
Must be 39 years. That's 6 years shy of. I'm 45, so I don't want to age you or anything, Tom, but that's a long time, and that's and to give all that value to one industry for 39 years is an achievement. Incredible achievement, and I congratulate everything you've ever done in this propane industry. So pretty
yeah,
pretty great to hear.
I'm more thankful that the industry has kept me in for 39 years than I am in terms of what I've been able to provide to the industry. So it's been great.
That's awesome.
I've gotten way more than I've ever given, I think.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Through the Leadership Lens, a podcast proudly presented by the Women Propane Council.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe, download, and share it with a friend or colleague.
And if you want to learn more about Women in Propane, connect with us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram,
or visit us online at www.womeninpropane.org.
I'm Freddie Riddler.
And I'm Jessica Balderston. Thanks for listening.
And keep leading with purpose and vision.